She's a parasite living off my brother who makes $7,000 a month.
She's like an unemployed freeloader.
The ones throwing these insults with smirks on their faces are my husband, Ken, and his younger sister, Monica. They've decided I'm beneath them and frequently make comments like this. But I never imagined they would stoop so low as to mock and belittle me in front of 30 relatives gathered for Christmas. I've never complained to Ken, thinking I should be grateful to be married to him. I've also held back with Monica because she's his sister. Even though Monica constantly tried to put me down, I always stayed quiet and ignored her. But I can't hold it in any longer. Even if it means divorcing Ken, I don't want to stay with people who don't value me. And when I made my decision, both Ken and Monica ended up regretting their actions. My name is Julia Lewis. I'm a 39-year-old homemaker. 4 years ago, I was desperate to get married. When I was 35, I was dumped by my boyfriend, Nate, who I had been dating since I was 30.
Being with you feels suffocating.
Nate said that, but later I found out he had been cheating on me, and the frustration kept me awake for several nights. But I couldn't afford to dwell on it for too long. After being dumped by Nate, I was down for a few days, but I quickly rushed to a matchmaking service. However, at my age, finding a match became significantly more challenging. Even after 2 years of being a member, I had 0 results. While a few men agreed to meet me, none of those meetings led to serious relationships. And before I knew it, I turned 37. My parents had passed away early, and I didn't have much connection with extended family. So, if I didn't get married, I would be alone for the rest of my life. I don't want to live by myself forever. Driven by that sense of urgency, I applied for as many matchups as possible, and eventually, I met one man. That man was my husband, Ken.
To tell you the truth, I'm preparing to start my own company. It's going to get busy, so I joined this service hoping to find someone who could support me. But whenever women hear that my work might become unstable, they all avoid me.
Ken explained with a wry smile when we first met. It made sense. Most women wouldn't want a partner whose career was uncertain. Especially when they're considering marriage, it's understandable to prioritize stability. But I wasn't concerned about that at all. I think it's amazing when someone works hard to pursue their dreams.
Really? That's the first time someone has ever said that to me since I joined the service. Could we meet again?
Of course, I replied with a smile. I did think Ken's lack of popularity among women might work to my advantage. But when I said I admired him, I truly meant it. Ken's eyes sparkled as he talked about his dream of owning his own company, and I couldn't help but want to cheer him on. On top of that, Ken was incredibly kind and made sure to escort me with care the entire time. If only I could marry someone like him. After the matchmaking meeting ended, I genuinely felt that way. From then on, our relationship progressed smoothly and effortlessly. We seemed to be a good match for each other. And just before I turned 38, we got married.
Now that we're married and life is more stable, I'm ready to focus on preparing my business. It's going to get hectic, so I'd like you to be a homemaker and support me.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Since I didn't have much attachment to my job and wanted to support Ken during his busy times, I quickly transitioned from an office worker to a full-time homemaker. Since I had some savings, I didn't feel too anxious about leaving my job. 6 months after we got married, Ken successfully launched his company, and it got off to a very smooth start.
It's all thanks to your hard work and support, Julia.
Ken seemed busy every day, but his company's performance was steadily improving, and he couldn't stop smiling. However, his income fluctuated drastically. Some months, he earned $7,000, but during dry spells, it dropped below $1,000. Still, even when there was no work, he kept himself occupied as the company's president, and I did my best to support him. But as we approached our first wedding anniversary, Ken's behavior began to change for the worse. I made your favorite meatloaf tonight. I offer a homemade dinner to Ken, who comes home looking exhausted. Without a word, Ken sat down at the table, not even bothering to say grace, and started eating. Watching him from the kitchen, I let out a quiet sigh. When we first got married, he always said grace and enjoyed my cooking with enthusiasm. But lately,
Hey, did you even taste this? It's bland.
Ken snapped irritably, criticizing my cooking. And it wasn't just tonight. He'd been constantly tearing down my meals recently. His complaints weren't limited to the food.
Look, there's dust here. Are you even cleaning? You're a homemaker, aren't you? Don't you understand that housework is your job? I can't stand people who slack off in their work.
Sorry. I'll clean it right away. When I apologize, Ken responds with a sharp clicking his tongue. It seemed like he couldn't open his mouth without insulting me for something. Where did the kind Ken go? Once I saw him head to the bathroom, I let out a big sigh. Right after we got married, he was so gentle. But over time, he started treating me poorly, and now his words were nothing but criticism. Even so, I couldn't imagine divorcing Ken. At my age, it would be tough to remarry. I had joined a matchmaking service because I was so determined to get married. I couldn't bear to give up on that dream so quickly after finally achieving it. Besides, I figured I wasn't the only one whose partner became less considerate after marriage. Ken constantly complained about me, but he wasn't like the awful husbands you see in TV dramas or movies. Maybe things will change if we have kids. That's what I was optimistically thinking, but when we entered our second year of marriage, I brought up the idea of having children. However, the response I got from Ken was completely unexpected.
I don't want kids.
What? But before we got married, you said you wanted kids soon. That had been one of the reasons I decided to marry him. Given my age, I wanted to have children as soon as possible. Ken had also said he wanted to have kids right away. But now, he dismissed it as a thing of the past.
My friend's wife had a baby and got fat. I can't stand the idea of my wife becoming unattractively overweight. Plus, I've heard that when kids come along, women get so caught up in them that they start neglecting housework. That's just unacceptable. So no, I don't want kids.
His selfish reasoning left me too shocked to respond. And then, something happened that pushed me even further to the edge. It was the presence of my sister-in-law, Monica.
Hey, I'm here.
Monica, I've told you so many times to let me know before you come over.
It's no big deal. We're family, right?
I think it's rude to show up unannounced just because we're family. But I swallowed my words. The last time I said something to Monica, she exaggerated my complaint and reported it to Ken.
How could you say something so awful to my sister Monica?
Ken was quite the sister complex, and I remember struggling a lot to calm him down at that time. Monica knew full well that her brother Ken was completely on her side, so she would casually inconvenience me. Showing up unannounced like today is just the tip of the iceberg. There were even times when she made me cook meals for her entire family because she didn't feel like cooking herself. And lately, things have gotten even more troublesome.
Take care of the baby again today, okay? I'm heading out with friends.
With those words, Monica handed me her baby, who had just started to hold their head up. Before I could refuse, Monica quickly left my house. Monica had gotten married before me and already had a child. I thought she would visit less after her child was born, but instead, she left the child entirely in my care.
This is practice for when you have kids in the future, Julia.
She says that, but it's really just an excuse to dump her parenting duties so she can go have fun. Thanks to her, my house is now fully stocked with baby supplies, even though I don't have children myself. Oh, there. Don't cry. Your mom sure is something else, huh? As I comforted the baby on the verge of tears, they quickly stopped crying and smiled at me. When Monica comes to pick her up, the baby cries nonstop, to the point where I wonder if she's more attached to me. Well, there go all my plans for today. I had planned to go to the salon, but there's no way I can bring a baby there. After canceling my appointment, I spent the entire day taking care of the baby. Fast forward to the second Christmas of my marriage. Ken practically dragged me to visit his father's family home. Ken's father is from the countryside, and the family home is a large, traditional house. Every year, relatives gather there to celebrate Christmas. I didn't attend last year because I had the flu. And honestly, I wasn't eager to go somewhere filled with strangers. This year, I wasn't planning to go either. But Ken went ahead and told his family I'd be coming, leaving me no choice but to go. The house was chaotic, with 30 relatives gathered, and after a quick introduction, I was roped into helping with the party alongside relatives Harriet and Misty.
What's your name again? Oh, whatever. Just carry this over there.
When you're done with that, do this.
Yes, got it. I was rushing around, trying to keep up with hosting strangers I'd never met. So busy it was making my head spin. By the way, Ken's parents weren't there because they both caught the flu. Although I'm not particularly close to them, I regretted not using that as an excuse to stay back and take care of them.
Hey, so you're Ken's wife, huh? Wow, you're getting up there in age.
Ken, your taste sure is something.
Drunk and red-faced, Ken's uncles, Mike and Tom, cracked rude jokes and burst out laughing. Ken just grinned along with them, not bothering to stand up for me. In fact, he went further.
They've got a point. Maybe I messed up picking my wife.
Ken's mocking comments only added fuel to the fire, making the party even roadier. I watched it all with a cold glare. I should get back to carrying food now. Leaving them with that, I quickly stepped out into the hallway and let out a heavy sigh. Why do I have to start Christmas with such unpleasant experiences? Maybe I should have faked being sick. Just as I muttered that, I heard lively voices beyond the door.
Monica's baby is so cute. Good thing they don't take after her husband.
Totally.
Monica was also there that day, but thanks to the parenting past she had as an excuse, she wasn't running around like the other women. She was sitting with the men, enjoying food and drinks as she pleased. Like Ken, she used her spouse as a punching bag for jokes to entertain the crowd.
If the baby had been born looking like my husband, I'd have started saving up for plastic surgery right away. But luckily, I won't need to do that.
Hey now, Monica, your husband's soaking over here. Your sharp tongue hasn't changed, but maybe give the guy a break once in a while?
The men laughed loudly as they pretended to sympathize. Though I could escape the situation, Monica's husband couldn't. I felt sorry for him. Just as I thought that, the insults turned toward me.
Speaking of pitiful, how about my brother? Everyone knows he started his own company, right? He's actually doing pretty well. He's had months where he made $7,000.
Wow, that's impressive.
But his wife is, you know? No kids, no help around the house, just completely useless, don't you think?
Monica's question prompted the relatives to chime in with agreement.
Ken, it's not too late. Divorce that old lady and marry a younger woman.
Want me to introduce someone to you?
Instead of defending me, Ken responded to the men's comments like this.
Well, she's pretty quiet. She just says, yes, yes, to whatever I tell her. She's perfect as a servant. Where else would I find someone so convenient?
Hearing Ken's words, I felt the blood drain from my face. I've been working hard every day to support Ken, who is always busy. I do it because I love him. But to Ken, I'm just a convenient servant. There's no love there. As I reeled from this realization, I heard even more shocking words.
She's a parasite living off my brother who makes $7,000 a month.
She's like an unemployed freeloader.
Their words drew loud laughter from the group of men. The sound of their ugly laughter made me instinctively cover my ears. To them, I was less than human. The moment I understood my position, I stopped caring about everything. I rushed into marrying Ken because I was afraid of missing my chance. And I endured the mistreatment from Ken and Monica because I thought I wouldn't be able to remarry if we divorced. But is it worth enduring such treatment just to maintain the title of being married? Do I really want to protect this life at the cost of my own happiness? The answer is no. Then I'll stop being your wife.
What?
What?
I threw the door open and declared loudly. Ken, Monica, and the men in the room stared at me in shock, stunned by my unexpected entrance and announcement.
What are you talking about?
Ken asked in a baffled tone, unable to grasp the situation. I looked at him with a face full of exasperation and replied. I said, I'm done being your wife. My declaration was met with confused murmurs from the men in the room.
Well, Julia, was it? Does that mean you're divorcing Ken?
Yes, that's exactly what it means. As the word divorce came out, Ken finally understood what I was saying. His expression shifted from shock to anger in an instant.
Are you serious? If you divorce me, you'll never remarry. You wanted to get married so badly, and now you're throwing it away in just 2 years.
If I can't be happy with someone who doesn't protect me, then being alone is still better. Up until now, I was fixated on being married. But when I thought about it calmly, I couldn't understand why I had been so obsessed. I wanted to get married, not just to avoid being alone, but to share happiness with my partner. I didn't marry Ken to make myself miserable. As I stood firm in my decision, Monica let out a mocking laugh.
Wow, that's a bold statement, Julia. But do you realize who you're divorcing? My brother is a golden catch, making $7,000 a month. You're an idiot for wanting to leave him over something like this.
Monica's twisted grin only made me more resolute. $7,000? That's a thing of the past. Ken doesn't make that kind of money anymore. His business is in pretty bad shape. A wave of shock rippled through the room. Ken's business had started strong, but sales plummeted within 6 months, and now it's barely hanging on. Without any solutions, it's only a matter of time before the company goes bankrupt.
How? How do you know about that?
Because you're so disorganized. You left a pile of overdue notices from your company lying around in the living room. Ken was at a loss for words as I exposed his carelessness. Monica, who had been smug until now, began to pale.
But if you divorce him, you'll be single. A housewife turning single. That's the end of the line for you.
It seemed Monica was determined to see me unhappy. She spat out her words like a sore loser. In response, I revealed a shocking truth that no one knew. I've been making a lot of money through real estate investments. I actually earn more than Ken, so you don't need to worry about me.
Oh.
Monica's shocked voice came out weak and deflated. The relatives, too, were wide-eyed with surprise. But no one was more stunned than Ken. As he stood there with his mouth agape, I couldn't help but remark, "Why are you so surprised? I told you before I quit my job, didn't I? I said I'd keep working on my real estate investments even as a housewife. Sometimes I work on it during my spare time."
Wait, what? I never heard that.
Oh, that's right. I told you while you were playing video games. You must not have been listening because you were too absorbed in your game. You really should fix that bad habit of yours. I pointed out Ken's flaw with a sigh, trying not to roll my eyes too hard. One of Ken's hobbies is gaming, and when he gets into it, he becomes so focused that he even forgets to eat. It's true that I mentioned my real estate investments while he was gaming, but I never imagined he hadn't heard me at all.
That's impossible. There's no way you make more money than me with real estate. You're just a housewife. I'm the one who's been supporting you.
The relatives, who had been on Ken's side until now, started giving him cold looks after hearing how clueless he was about such an important topic. Desperate to escape their judgmental gazes, Ken scrambled to deny the truth I had revealed. Then, do you want to take a look at my bank book? That should make it clear that I earn more than you. Honestly, didn't you ever wonder how we were able to maintain the same lifestyle even though you've barely been giving me any money lately? As Ken's business began to struggle, he gradually reduced the amount of money he gave me for living expenses each month. When I told him it wasn't enough, Ken sighed and said,
Not enough. I'm giving you plenty. If anything, I was giving you too much before. If you think it's not enough, why don't you cut back? I saw someone on social media managing groceries on just $120 a month. If they can do it, so can you.
Ken's comment was absurd. Spending only $120 a month on groceries is impossible. Anyone who manages a household would know that instantly. That social media post must have been a lie. Even if it were possible for someone living alone and eating 2 meals a day, we're a household of 2, and Ken eats more than the average person. But Ken remained firm, acting like it was a reasonable expectation. I have no choice. I'll have to dip into my savings. When it became clear that asking Ken was pointless, I started using my own savings to cover the shortfall. Still, I earn more than Ken. Even if Ken stopped contributing entirely, I could easily support the two of us. Well, I doubt it'll ever get to the point where he gives me nothing. I thought that optimistically, but 2 months later, Ken didn't give me a single cent. When I confronted him about it, he said,
It can't be helped. The business is struggling. Haven't I been giving you plenty of money until now? You weren't wasting it, were you? You must have saved some of it. Just use that.
The money Ken gave me was so little it barely covered anything. So of course, I hadn't saved a penny. I was more baffled than angry, wondering how he could be so oblivious about household finances. Ken's selfish behavior left me speechless. I resigned myself to covering all the expenses. You said you've been supporting me, but the truth is the opposite. I've been supporting you, and yet you act so high and mighty without even realizing that. My words made Ken's face flush with a mix of anger and embarrassment. I don't fully understand, but being called an incompetent man who can't earn money seems to be deeply humiliating for men. Ken was no exception, and he was visibly angry at my comment.
How dare you say that to my brother?
Monica, stepping in for the speechless Ken, tried to attack me.
If you keep insulting my brother, then it's over between you two. If you get divorced at your age, you'll never remarry. Your future will be hopeless, and you'll spend your life alone and miserable.
Whether or not we get divorced isn't up to you, Monica. Why do you think you have the authority to decide that? I shot back immediately, and Monica bit her lip in frustration, clearly upset. If she's going to get this flustered, she shouldn't have attacked me in the first place, I thought. Also, why would getting divorced mean my future is hopeless? Being single isn't unusual these days.
Not being able to get married means no one wants you. That's obviously sad and miserable.
Don't decide what makes me happy. It's annoying. Sure, I used to be fixated on marriage, but I'm not unwanted. I have plenty of friends. Marriage isn't the only way for a woman to be happy. Many people find their greatest joy in spending time with friends, and some value their alone time above all else. Happiness is different for everyone, and there's no single definition of it. That's why I won't be unhappy if I divorce Ken. For you, Monica, marriage might be the ultimate happiness, but not for me. I don't want to stay with someone who can hurt others and not feel a thing. That's why I'm done being Ken's wife. Then I turned to glare at the male relatives, who had been quietly watching the scene unfold. Did you know? There's been an increase in older couples getting divorced. If you keep treating your wives like servants while you enjoy yourselves, you'll end up being abandoned too. At my remark, the wives, who had apparently joined unnoticed, began voicing their agreement.
She's right. I'm not divorcing now because my husband works, but the thought of him being home all day after retirement is terrifying.
Does he think he'll start doing housework after retirement when he never helped with the kids or housework before?
Taking care of the kids is done, and now I'm supposed to take care of my husband? No way. I'd rather get divorced, too.
Amid the women's growing complaints, the men looked increasingly flustered. Some even rushed to apologize to their wives. Men really are hopeless if they can't realize these things without being told. Deciding there was no reason to stay any longer, I quickly left the house. I headed to the parking lot, ready to go home alone without Ken. Ken and Monica, flustered, came running to try and stop me.
Hey, what do you think you're doing, leaving without permission? And that's my car.
This car? I paid for it in full and it's under my name. When did it become yours? The car, which Ken used daily for commuting, was actually something it bought before we got married. I let him use it simply because I didn't have much attachment to it. Ken looked shocked at my words, clearly having forgotten the truth.
Wait, what? Didn't you give it to me?
Of course not. Stop saying stupid things. You're giving me a headache. As I held my head in frustration, Monica shrieked at me.
If you're divorcing, then you should leave. Pack your things and get out of that house.
The apartment we're living in? It's under my name. I'm the one paying the rent. Your idiot brother just moved into my apartment. You're the ones who need to leave. Yes, not just the car. The house is under my name too. If we're getting divorced, it's Ken who has to leave. As I explained earlier, I've been covering all the living expenses. In other words, the one losing everything in this divorce isn't me. It's Ken. Realizing this fact, Monica lost all her confidence, her face growing paler by the moment. Ken also seemed to grasp what would happen if I left him and, in a complete turnaround, clung to me desperately.
I'm sorry. I didn't know. I had no idea we were able to live because of you.
Come on. Even if you didn't know, a little thought would have made it obvious. But since you always thought of me as beneath you, it probably never occurred to you that I was the one supporting you.
Beneath me? No, I never thought that.
Even as he denied it, Ken avoided my eyes. This is a habit he unconsciously shows whenever he lies to me. Since we got married, Ken had always thought of me as beneath him. No, he might have been looking down on me even before we got married. He probably chose me because he thought someone he considered lower would be easier to control. From the start, it was clear I wouldn't find happiness being married to Ken. It just took me far too long to realize it. I'm divorcing you, Ken.
No, I don't want a divorce.
Then I'll take it to court. I refuse to stay married to you. I can't stand carrying the name Lewis anymore. I hate you, Ken, and I can't even tolerate you anymore. So, we're getting divorced. Ken's face fell in shock at my outright rejection. He must not have imagined I despised him this much. But after being humiliated in front of 30 relatives, how could I not? Well, that's that. I'll head home first and pack up your belongings. Enjoy the rest of your Christmas holiday. Ken looked devastated, and Monica stood frozen in shock. In contrast, I wore a bright, satisfied smile. Relishing the joy of escaping from this miserable life, I wasted no time driving away. As I watched Ken and Monica grow smaller in the rearview mirror, I savored my newfound freedom. When I got home, I immediately began packing Ken's belongings. It took the whole day, but by the next day, I was ready to move his stuff out. Just as I was planning to deliver it to his parents' home, Ken returned in a relative's car. I'm taking this to your parents' house. Help me load it up. Ken seemed too defeated to resist and silently complied. When I explained the situation to his parents, they were initially surprised but eventually agreed that the divorce was inevitable. Ken may have been unreasonable, but his parents seemed more reasonable. And so, our divorce was finalized quickly. Having his pride shattered in front of his family and facing my complete rejection must have hit Ken hard. When I brought the divorce papers to his parents' house, Ken signed them without protest. Since Ken had no savings or assets, there was no division of property. All the furniture and appliances in the house were things I had purchased. So the paperwork ended with just submitting the divorce papers. Unsurprisingly, Ken had no financial means to live on his own and stayed at his parents' house. As I was about to leave their house with the signed papers, I heard Ken mutter,
I'm sorry.
It was so faint I could barely hear it. I felt nothing but exasperation. If he truly felt sorry, he would have apologized properly. There was no way I could accept such an insincere apology, nor would it change my resolve to never forgive him. So I pretended not to hear and left his parents' house. As for what happened to Ken afterward, his life became miserable. His company soon went bankrupt, leaving him with significant debt. Since he's living with his parents, he doesn't have to worry about living expenses, but he still has to work to repay his debts. Currently, Ken is juggling multiple jobs, struggling to repay his debts. Monica also met a grim fate. Her husband served her divorce papers shortly after. Come to think of it, her husband was also humiliated in front of their relatives. Like me, he must have reached his breaking point. To make matters worse, he discovered Monica had been unfaithful and demanded alimony and custody of their child. Monica tried to resist, but her husband hired a skilled lawyer, and he ultimately got everything he asked for. Monica moved back to her parents' house and is now working desperately to pay off her alimony. The two who looked down on me and mocked me faced the consequences they deserved. There is no room for sympathy. Their outcomes were fitting. As for the wives who criticized their husbands during that family gathering, some worked things out with their spouses, while others ended up divorcing. Like me, they chose the path that felt right for them. Though I don't know them well, I hope they find happiness in whichever path they chose. After the divorce, I terminated the lease on the apartment and moved to a new location. This was to prevent Ken or his family, desperate for money, from showing up at my door. Now, I live peacefully alone in a rented one-story house. Thanks to my real estate investments, I'm financially comfortable and plan to enjoy a leisurely life for a while. Now, what should I do today? There's no one to answer my musings, but that's fine. I'm very content with this life. I used to be so anxious about finding someone to marry, but now I realize I'm much happier on my own. Oh, that's right. There's an art exhibit for my favorite painter going on. I'll go see that today. Humming to myself, I prepare to head out. I'm living alone now, but I couldn't be happier.